If you talk to people my age, I'm 38 years old, most of us remember the first time we heard Slim Shady. We remember the first Eminem song that we heard. Um, but why would this be some type of JFK 9/11 event in our lives where we will never forget the story of the first time we heard Slim Shady? Why would it be that big? The 90s, after all, were no stranger to shock jock type humor. South Park is from the 90s. Jerry Springer in the 90s. Howard Stern when he still did that sort of thing instead of whatever he's doing now from the 90s. All of those things. I watched all of those things. I don't remember the first South Park episode I saw. I don't remember the first time I saw Jerry Springer or listened to Howard Stern. I remember the very first time I heard Slim Shady. When I was in middle school, I used to wake up really early before school, and the first thing I would do was watch Denise Austin, obviously for science and research purposes. After that, I would change to one of two music television channels that there were at the time, MTV or VH1. I don't even know if VH1 is still a thing. MTV kind of wasn't still a thing then. But they had on VH1, I don't know if it was biggest songs of the weekend. I don't know how the music came to me, but I remember seeing My Name Is, the video for My Name Is. And it was insane. The video was insane. The words were insane. The flow was insane. The everything about it was absolutely mind-blowing. The only way that I can kind of compare it to anything is I'm not a nicotine guy, never been a smoker. Once in a while, a cigar. Once in a while, some Levi Garrett, I'll dip. But the first time I put a Zin in my mouth, it was like my world, my head opened up. It was a completely different experience. That's kind of how it was to listen to Eminem the first time. And I didn't think much of it afterwards. I thought, wow, that's a different song. I'm going to hear that again. I knew immediately I'm going to start singing this after Denise Austin for a very long period of time because that's how music television at that time worked. Whatever was popular, they just played the hell out of it. Now it was winter, and I used to think I was tough. So I would always wait at the bus stop without a coat on. I'm in Kansas City. It's cold in Kansas City in the winter. Didn't matter. Didn't care. I waited without a coat on. And every day, my friend Duwan, who sat behind me on the bus, would make fun of me for that. He was my friend, right? That's how guys razz each other. So he'd make fun of me. That morning, I remember distinctly, he did not razz me. The first thing out of his mouth was, "Did you hear that Slim Shady song?" And yes, I did. We talked about it the whole way to school. It's pre-internet, right? So anything you caught, and you had to wait until the next time you saw that video, heard that song on the radio, to understand what was said, what was actually said. You had some foggy idea of the lyrics, so we were trading what we thought we heard from the song. I got to school, got to my first hour. It was a science class. And, still didn't think it was that big a deal. We were the same age range. We listened to a lot of the same music anyway, liked a lot of the same stuff anyway. My science teacher comes in, closes the door, and starts talking about Slim Shady. Now, albeit at that time, nobody had any idea the crazy stuff that was going to come out of his mouth after that, right? You knew a little bit, but even then, you heard it on the radio, you didn't have the CD. You saw the music video, you didn't have the CD, so you didn't know. All you knew was the edited lyrics. But there was one set of lyrics that stuck with me from that first time hearing the song forward. And I think in that set of lyrics, we have a little bit of the genius to why Slim Shady, as the sort of persona Slim Shady, hit in that way. Why Slim Shady sounded like such madness. Why it was so crazy, and people to this day, 25 years later, still remember the first time they heard Slim Shady. It was these lyrics right here. I'm not ready to leave. It's too scary to die. I'll have to be carried inside the cemetery and buried alive. Am I coming or going? I can barely decide. I just drank a fifth of vodka. Dare me to drive? Now, obviously, the rhyme scheme is absolutely insane. Leave, barely, dare me, right? You have all of these scary. I'm not going to do the whole thing, I promise. I just want to sort of get some of it out there. Cemetery rhymes, a 3-syllable rhyme with barely decide. Cemetery, barely decide, or cemetery, barely. I guess it's a 2-syllable rhyme at the end there, but cemetery, buried alive. Cemetery, buried. You have all of these different syllables rhyming with each other inside of the bars. You don't have to wait till the end to get a rhyme. This is all going on at the same time symphonically. There's the D side. You have all of these rhymes that are overlapping, and none of the... Oh, where's that color? Okay, that's the wrong color. Doesn't matter. Look. Obviously, the rhyme scheme is maddening, insane, and it helps meme the entire situation. It gets it stuck in your head. And though these are far from the most shocking lyrics on that album, they're not even the most shocking lyrics on the song. Generally, drunk driving and being buried alive, they have low polling numbers, right? Nobody likes those things. So, he is talking about things that are outside of the purview of what is considered normal or acceptable. This adds to the meme experience for sure, memetic experience. Meme doesn't mean anything necessarily in coordination with the internet, as we all know it. It comes from The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. It just means it is a self-replicating thing. You can't stop saying these words in your mind once you have them memorized. I promise you, 25 years later, once in a while, these verses will just come out of my mouth while I'm driving to work. But you'll notice that though he is saying absolutely wild things here, though he is saying things that are outlandish, though he is saying things that you don't necessarily think are connected, I'm not ready to leave. How does that connect to drinking a fifth of vodka? We're going to get there. You'll notice that although he changes topics, he sticks with ideas. So nothing feels out of place. In the entirety of this set of lyrics, nothing feels random. It feels like a progression. And that is where I think his genius lies. His punchlines are not random. They are just counterintuitive. So he's led you to the right place, but instead of picking red, he picks blue. You knew red and blue were the options intuitively, instinctively. You knew you were there, but you didn't know where he was going to go. He follows ideas, not topics, then snaps a counterintuitive punchline on the lyric as a stinger. That is sort of what Slim Shady was. So let's go through these. I'm not ready to leave. It's too scary to die. I'll have to be carried inside the cemetery and buried alive. Here, our speaker is simply professing a great fear of death. Am I coming or going? I can barely decide. Here, we are talking about the ideas of um, confusion and indecision. He's introducing confusion and indecision to the mix. This is not illogical after talking about fear. Fear leads to indecision. Fear leads to confusion. I just drank a fifth of vodka. Dare me to drive? Now, here, what we have is the whole time he keeps the rhyme scheme, right? Which is absolutely incredible. But after introducing the idea of confusion and indecision, he admits to being drunk. Expanding on the indecision, he asks you to dare him to drive. Do you dare me to drive? Thus, taking the decision from him. If you dared me to do it, I have to do it, right? But finally, this is the craziest part. I just drank a fifth of vodka. Do you dare me to drive? This part here goes all the way back to being afraid to die. But instead of laying in line with being afraid to die, what Slim Shady does here is adopt the idea of death. He goes all the way to the end with you knowing he's afraid to die and then says, do you dare me to do the one thing that kills more Americans than anything outside of heart disease? Do you dare me to do the dumbest, most dangerous thing I can? It goes all the way back to the beginning. He has led us to this point, and then he doesn't offer some random zinger at the end. No, he goes back to the beginning, but counterintuitively so. Instead of sticking with the idea of being scary to die, he says, do you dare me to drive? He rhymes syllable for syllable, scary to die, dare me to drive. But that ending is the counterintuitive line to what you would expect to get from someone who was afraid to die. The punchline is the opposite of what you would intuit. So, because it's the opposite of what you would intuit, it's still within the purview of what's in your mind. Derrida says that everything that we think, we have to also impose or we have to create its opposite in our mind. Simply by having the positive in our mind, we are thinking also of the negative. But my favorite example of this, my absolute favorite example of this, and again, 25 years later, just thinking about this set of lyrics will make me laugh randomly. We have from the song Role Model, I get too blunted off of funny homegrown, 'cause when I smoke out, I hit the trees harder than Sonny Bono. And anyone my age in your mind right now, you're thinking, oh no. So if I said I never did drugs, it would mean I lie and get fucked more than the president does. Hillary Clinton tried to slap me and call me a pervert. I ripped her fucking tonsils out and fed her sherbet. Number one, yes. Marshall Mathers is Midwestern. This is not sherbet. This is sherbet, and he'd better wash his hands before he eats it. Now, I get blunted off of funny homegrown. This introduces the topic of drugs. And in 1999, marijuana was much more controversial than it is today. 'Cause when I smoke out, I hit the trees harder than Sonny Bono. This maintains the idea of drugs and controversy, and it introduces shit-talking celebrities. That's what this line does. So if I ever said I never did drugs, that would mean that I lie and get fucked more than the president does. What you're doing here is sticking with the idea of celebrity shit talk, but you're also basically saying that the drugs, and therefore the controversy, are part of your very being. Now, the celebrity you're calling out, notably, is Bill Clinton, 1999, the president Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton had admitted to smoking marijuana prior to being president. First president, I think, to have ever admitted to smoking marijuana. But I did not inhale. I feel your pain, but I didn't take that puff. Bringing celebrity shit talk back to drug use, wrapping them up. And at the time, Bill Clinton was going through the fallout of the Monica Lewinsky stuff, which that's where you get the F word from. Now, the next line makes me laugh to no end. Hillary Clinton tried to slap me and call me a pervert. Now, I guess I should have said the last two lines. Hillary Clinton tried to slap me and call me a pervert. Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton's wife, obviously. Then you have to ask yourself, for what would someone want to slap you and call you a pervert? Maybe for the same type of things that the president was doing with Monica Lewinsky, right? Now, Slim Shady, no punk, not going to take that. The next line, now here's the Slim Shady move. Here's the Slim Shady move. I ripped her fucking tonsils out and fed her sherbet. Now, he has to pronounce it the Midwestern way because it has to rhyme with pervert. But it keeps in line with the Slim Shady character in that it's very violent. It keeps in line with punchlines being counterintuitive because I ripped her tonsils out, extremely violent. What a wild thing to do. And because we're down this path, instead of going right, where the violence would be maintained, where then Hillary Clinton would hate him, he goes to the left and says, I fed her sherbet. The next, so number one, this stops her from calling him a pervert. You get your tonsils taken out, you're not talking for a little while. It also forces us through an action into a mental picture. An absolutely ridiculous mental picture of Marshall Mathers sitting next to Hillary Clinton in a hospital bed, feeding her sherbet. Because we were led down the road of envisioning Slim Shady being talked to and treated this way by Hillary Clinton, and him taking retribution by doing something wildly violent, absurdly violent, and ripping her tonsils out, instead of the perpetuation of violence thereafter, because that's what we think is coming. Counterintuitively, he says that afterwards he took care of her. I was so mad I ripped her tonsils out. I fed her sherbet afterwards. Right? This is, in my opinion, the essence of Slim Shady. This is why so many people have tried this and gotten it wrong. It's not about a constant escalation. If you look at these sets of lyrics, what happens here? A guy is just sort of professing that he's he's scared to die. Then he talks about being confused in general. And then he escalates. Uh-oh, I think I just ruined it. He escalates to I drank a fifth of vodka. And then he says, do you dare me to drive? This is not in line with the rest of the lyrics, but it is counterintuitive to them. So the intuition is still there. Here, we have a guy talking about how much marijuana he smokes, then making fun of the president, escalates it to his wife tried to assault me, escalates it to instead, I assaulted her, and then takes it back down by saying I fed her sherbet. The true genius in Slim Shady is not constant escalation. The true genius in Slim Shady is not the rhyme schemes. The true genius in Slim Shady is not the element of randomness, is not the element of shock. The true genius to Slim Shady is that he will pull the rug out from where you thought you were going, but not with something random. It is with the opposite of what you thought you saw coming. That is all I have for this episode. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos a week. There's poetry every Monday, and I hope to have you back for the next one.